Right now, try to tickle yourself. Go ahead. Touch the sole of your foot. Press your ribs. Nothing happens. You feel the pressure, maybe a slight touch, but no laughter. No uncontrollable reflex. Your body refuses to respond to your own hands. But here's the disturbing part. Ask someone else to do it, and within seconds, you're gasping, twisting away, unable to stop laughing. Same touch, same skin, different brain response. Why does your body ignore you but obey someone else? What is your brain hiding from you? And what happens when this mechanism breaks? When your brain stops recognizing your own movements? When your hand becomes a stranger? This isn't about tickling. This is about control, or rather, the terrifying illusion of control. Because your brain has been lying to you your entire life. It erases sensations before you feel them. It decides what's real and what isn't. And when that system fails, people wake up to find their hands moving against their will, their bodies acting like puppets controlled by an invisible force. Scientists call it alien hand syndrome. Patients call it possession. And it reveals something deeply unsettling. You might not be in control of your body at all. You just think you are. Because your brain predicted you would think that. December 2014, an 84-year-old woman in the United States woke up in the middle of the night, feeling hands grabbing her body. She panicked. Someone was in bed with her. She could feel fingers groping, clutching, moving across her skin. But when she turned on the light, the room was empty. She was alone. Except she wasn't. The hands were hers. Her left hand was moving by itself, grabbing at her body, touching her face, her arms, her chest, as if searching for something, and she had no control over it. She tried to stop it with her right hand. She grabbed her left wrist, held it down. Nothing worked. The left hand kept moving, kept reaching, kept grabbing. For hours it continued. When she tried to eat, her left hand knocked the food away. When she sat down to watch television, it grabbed the remote and threw it across the room. When she used the bathroom, the hand reached out and touched the walls, the sink, her own body, as if exploring a foreign environment. She started yelling at her hand, commanding it to stop, begging it. At one point, she screamed that her arm was possessed by the devil. Doctors diagnosed alien hand syndrome. A stroke had damaged the connections between her motor cortex and the areas of her brain responsible for planning and predicting movement. Her left hand was still receiving motor commands, still executing complex, goal-directed actions. But the part of her brain that creates the feeling of authorship, the sense that I am doing this, was disconnected. So her hand moved, but it wasn't her moving it. At least, that's what her brain told her. The terrifying truth, the hand was always hers. The commands were always coming from her brain. But without the prediction system, without the signal that said, this movement is mine, the hand became alien, a stranger, a threat. She asked doctors to tie her hand down, to restrain it, anything to make it stop. Because living with a hand you don't control is like living with a parasite inside your own body. Karen Byrne underwent surgery to control her severe epilepsy. Doctors cut her corpus callosum, the thick bundle of nerve fibers connecting the left and right hemispheres of her brain. The operation worked, her seizures stopped, but something else started. Her left hand began acting on its own. At first, it was small things. She would button her shirt, and her left hand would unbutton it. She would light a cigarette, place it in an ashtray, and her left hand would reach forward and crush it out. She would put items in her handbag, walk away, and later realize her left hand had taken them out and left them behind. She lost wallets, keys, makeup. She had no idea her hand was doing it until someone pointed it out. One day, sitting in her doctor's office, her neurologist stared at her and said, "Karen, what are you doing? Your hand is undressing you." She looked down. Her left hand was unbuttoning her shirt, one button at a time, slowly, methodically, as if someone else was doing it. And until that moment, she hadn't even noticed. Karen's brain was now split. The right hemisphere controlled her left hand, But the left hemisphere, where her conscious verbal awareness lived, had no access to what the right hemisphere was doing. The left hand received commands from the right brain, executed them perfectly, but Karen's conscious mind, her sense of self, had no idea those commands had been sent. So the hand moved, and Karen watched it like a spectator, like someone watching a horror movie where the monster is her own body. She developed strategies. She sat on her left hand to keep it still. She held it down with her right hand. She avoided situations where the left hand might act out. But the hand was relentless. It had goals, intentions, just not hers. Or at least not the part of her that she recognized herself. Because if Karen's right brain sent the command to unbutton the shirt, whose decision was that? Was it Karen? Or was Karen only the left hemisphere, the verbal, conscious part, watching helplessly as the other half of her brain acted without permission? The most disturbing question. If half of her brain could act without her awareness, how much of her normal behavior was also happening without her knowledge? How many decisions were made before she became conscious of them? How many movements were executed by a part of her brain she never heard from? London 2000. Dr. Sarah Jane Blackmore designed an experiment that would prove something shocking. Your brain erases sensations before you feel them. And it only takes a fraction of a second to turn your own hand into someone else's. She built a robotic arm. Participants placed their hand on a lever connected to the robot. When they moved the lever, the robot would touch their other hand with a soft brush. Simple. Except for one thing. Blackmore added a delay. Sometimes the touch happened instantly. Sometimes it happened 200 milliseconds later. Just 1/5 of a second. Barely noticeable, but enough to break the brain's prediction system. When the delay was 0, participants felt almost nothing. A light touch, no reaction. Their brains predicted the sensation, sent a signal to cancel it out, and the touch vanished from conscious awareness. But when the delay increased, something changed. At 100 milliseconds, people started to notice the touch more. At 200 milliseconds, they started laughing. At 300 milliseconds, they were squirming, trying to pull away, experiencing full ticklish sensations from their own hand. What happened? The brain sends a copy of every motor command to the sensory cortex. This copy, called an efference copy, predicts what sensation should arrive based on the movement. When your hand moves to touch your ribs, the efference copy tells your sensory cortex, in exactly 50 milliseconds, you will feel a touch on the ribs. Ignore it, it's us. So when the touch arrives, the brain compares it to the prediction. Perfect match. Signal canceled. You feel nothing. But if the touch is delayed, the prediction expires. The brain expected the touch at 50 milliseconds. It arrives at 250 milliseconds. Too late. The prediction is gone. Now the brain has no idea where this touch came from. It classifies it as external, unexpected, potentially dangerous. And the tickle response activates. You laugh, you squirm, from your own hand, because your brain decided it wasn't yours anymore. Blakemore's experiment revealed something terrifying. You don't feel reality, you feel predictions. Your brain guesses what should happen, and if the guess is correct, it deletes the sensation. You only feel what your brain didn't predict. You only notice the errors. Everything else is erased before it reaches your conscious mind. You are not experiencing the world. You are experiencing the difference between what your brain expected and what actually happened. And if your brain predicts perfectly, you feel nothing at all. You disappear into your own predictions. 3 cases, 3 breakdowns of the same system. The woman whose hand became possessed. The woman whose brain split in half. The robot that turned your hand into a stranger. All of them reveal the same truth. Your sense of control is not real. It's a prediction, a simulation your brain runs in advance of every movement. And when that simulation fails, when the prediction doesn't match reality, your body stops being yours. So what is this system? How does it work? And what does it mean for your sense of self, your sense of free will, your sense that you are the one in control of your life? Because if your brain can erase your own touch, can cancel your own sensations, can make your hand feel alien with just a 200 millisecond delay, then what else is it hiding from you? What other decisions are being made before you know about them? And who exactly is making them? Your brain doesn't wait for reality. It predicts it. Every single movement you make, every sensation you expect to feel, every sound you anticipate hearing, your brain simulates all of it before it happens. This isn't a theory. This is documented neuroscience. And it explains why you can't tickle yourself, why alien hands exist, and why your sense of control might be the greatest illusion your brain has ever created. When you decide to move your hand, your motor cortex sends a command to your muscles. Simple enough. But at the exact same moment, a copy of that command is sent to another part of your brain, the cerebellum and the somatosensory cortex. This copy is called an efference copy, and its job is to predict what sensation should result from your movement. If you're going to touch your ribs, the efference copy calculates the exact timing, pressure, and location of that touch. It creates a simulation of what you should feel. And then, when the real sensory signal arrives from your skin, your brain compares the two. If they match, the signal is canceled, erased. You feel nothing, because your brain already knew it was coming. This is why you can't tickle yourself. The efference copy predicts the touch with perfect accuracy. The prediction matches reality. The sensation is deleted before it reaches your conscious awareness. But when someone else tickles you, there's no efference copy. Your brain has no prediction. The touch arrives unexpected, unannounced, and your sensory cortex lights up with full intensity. The tickle response activates. You laugh. You squirm. Not because the touch is different, because your brain didn't see it coming. But here's where it gets disturbing. This system doesn't just suppress tickling. It suppresses everything. Every time you walk, your brain predicts the feeling of your feet hitting the ground and cancels most of it out. Every time you chew food, your brain predicts the pressure on your teeth and mutes the sensation. Every time you speak, your brain predicts the sound of your own voice and reduces its volume in your auditory cortex. This is why your voice sounds strange on recordings. You've never actually heard your real voice. You've only heard the predicted, quieter version your brain allows you to perceive. You are not experiencing reality. You are experiencing the errors in your brain's predictions. Everything your brain successfully predicts is invisible to you. You only notice what your brain got wrong. You are living inside a simulation, and the only time you see through it is when the simulation breaks. This prediction system is controlled largely by the cerebellum, a structure at the back of your brain about the size of your fist. The cerebellum doesn't generate conscious thoughts. It doesn't create intentions or desires. It just runs simulations, constantly, obsessively. It takes every motor command your brain sends and calculates what should happen next, where your hand will be in 100 milliseconds, what pressure you'll feel when your foot lands, what sound will emerge when you speak. It builds an internal forward model of your body and the world, a real-time simulation that runs just slightly ahead of reality. And then reality arrives. The actual sensory signals come in from your skin, your muscles, your ears. The cerebellum compares them to the prediction. If they match, it sends a signal to suppress the sensation. If they don't match, it sends an alarm. Something unexpected happened. Pay attention. This is how you catch yourself when you trip. This is how you know when someone touches you from behind. This is how you distinguish self from other. The cerebellum predicts what you will cause. Everything else must be caused by the outside world. But what happens when this system is damaged? What happens when the efference copy never arrives, when the prediction never gets made, when your brain loses the ability to distinguish your own actions from external events? You get alien hand syndrome. You get a hand that moves, that acts, that grabs and reaches and touches, but feels like it belongs to someone else. Because it does belong to someone else. Not literally, but perceptually. Your brain has no prediction for its movements, so it classifies the hand as external, as foreign, as alien. The woman whose hand grabbed her body in bed didn't lose motor control. Her hand was still executing complex, coordinated movements. She didn't lose her hand, she lost the feeling that the hand was hers. The prediction system broke. The efference copy stopped arriving. And without that copy, without the signal that says, "This movement is mine," the hand became a stranger, a threat. Something acting inside her body without her permission. Karen Burns' case is even more revealing. Her brain was surgically split. Her right hemisphere could send motor commands to her left hand, but her left hemisphere, the one that talks, that narrates her experience, that says, "I am Karen," had no access to those commands. So when the left hand unbuttoned her shirt, there was no efference copy in the verbal, conscious part of her brain. The movement happened, but the conscious Karen had no prediction for it. So it felt alien. It felt like someone else was controlling her hand. But it wasn't someone else. It was her, just a part of her that the conscious part couldn't see. This raises a horrifying question. If Karen's right hemisphere could make decisions and execute movements without her conscious awareness, how much of your behavior is also happening without your awareness? How many decisions are made by parts of your brain you never hear from? Neuroscientist Benjamin Libet famously showed that brain activity associated with a decision begins up to half a second before people report consciously deciding to act. The decision is made before you know you made it. Your consciousness arrives late to the party, observes the decision that was already made, and then claims credit for it. You feel like you decided, but the decision happened without you. So what are you? If your brain is making decisions before you're aware of them, if it's canceling sensations before you feel them, if it's simulating reality and only showing you the errors, then what is the you that feels in control? You are not the author of your actions. You are the narrator. You arrive after the fact, observe what your brain already did, and construct a story in which you were in charge. But you weren't. Your brain was. And your brain doesn't consult you before it acts. It just makes you feel like it did. The efference copy system exists to create a sense of agency, a feeling that you are the one causing your movements. But it's just a feeling, a prediction, a story your brain tells you to make sense of actions that were already underway before your conscious mind even registered them. And when that story breaks, when the prediction fails, you lose the sense of self. Your hand becomes alien. Your voice becomes foreign. Your body becomes a puppet operated by invisible strings. Here's the final unsettling truth. You can't tickle yourself because your brain predicts your own touch and erases it. But you also can't surprise yourself. You can't scare yourself. You can't truly experience your own actions because your brain always sees them coming. Everything you do is predicted, simulated, and then deleted from your conscious experience. You are invisible to yourself. The only time you feel anything is when someone else acts, when the outside world breaks through your predictions and forces you to pay attention. You are not living in the present. You are living in a simulation that runs just ahead of the present, and the only moments you actually experience are the ones where the simulation was wrong. So when you reach out to tickle yourself and feel nothing, you're not failing to tickle yourself. You're succeeding at being predicted. Your brain saw you coming. It knew what you were going to do before you did it. It calculated the exact sensation you would create and erased it before you could feel it. You disappeared into your own prediction. And that's what you do every second of every day. You predict yourself out of existence. You are a ghost in your own machine, watching a body that moves before you tell it to, feeling sensations that were already filtered before they reached you, living a life that your brain narrates after the fact and convinces you that you were in control the whole time. But you're not in control. You never were. You're just the story your brain tells itself to explain what it already decided to do. And the moment that story breaks, the moment the prediction fails, you wake up to find your hand moving on its own, your body acting without permission, and you realize the terrifying truth. The person you thought was driving this body was never real. It was just a prediction. And predictions can be wrong.